go in 3, 2. There it is. It's beautiful. The best royalty free you can find.
Yes, I love it.
Well, hey, everybody. Joe here, Small Town Failing Podcast. Welcome to a very meta episode, which I think is relevant because the voice you hear, CC Stapleton. Is it okay that I use your last name? I always
of course.
Perfect. CC, who we have done numerous podcasts together and also been on a podcast full time for a while, which we are no longer a part of. But the movie this week, A Podcast to Die For, from our good friends at Lifetime. I feel like what better, at this point.
I'm glad that we really wanted to do a deep dive into the podcasting world and just, we can explore the dangers thereof.
I don't think the people that made this movie did like a deep dive into the world of podcasting, but because even we'll obviously talk about it, but just the production that they go through for this thing is impressive. But Cece, we talked about it before. I just got back from Dollywood, which was amazing, and we stayed at the Dreammore Hotel. And apparently, something I should have asked before, you cultivated all the artwork and created some that was in there, right?
I did. Yes, at my I say old job. I'm still loosely affiliated with them, but yes, I was an art consultant for a company here in Atlanta, and they hired us to procure and kind of just design all of the artwork for the Dreammore and the building itself. So the big sculpture on the outside and everything.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, that giant thing out front.
Yeah, the it's butterflies or something.
Yes, yeah. It's like this fountain and everything. It's all these things that we were like, we got to get a picture with the family before we leave.
Of course. I mean, they're great photo ops.
Yeah, but we were dealing with an angry 4-year-old. So we're like, fuck it. No, just get in the car. We're leaving.
As we all are.
But next time, for sure. We loved it. I was actually surprised at how much we enjoyed Dollywood, and we're looking at going again for the holidays, just for a couple days. I
mean, Pigeon Forge, so the kind of town that it's in at Christmas is beautiful. I mean, they do so much kind of so many festivity type
I can imagine.
And I mean, anything related to Dolly is amazing. So I'll have to talk Kyle into being because I mean, it's only 2 hours from here. But we need
is it really that close to Atlanta? I didn't realize. Oh my God, that would be amazing. Yeah, we definitely let's figure this out on the show as we record.
Of course, and that's what everybody wants to hear.
Let's look up rates. We'll find a place. I will say that main strip of all their restaurants and stuff is just a wide awake nightmare.
Yes.
Which the nice thing is the Dollywood area is you can go through a back road and avoid all that.
Which it's wild because it's very much like Disney World to me. It's a tiny little enclave off to itself inside of a town, and you're just nope, Dollywood's over here, and then everything else is over here. But that strip is kind of like a Panama City Beach strip.
Oh my God, yeah, really or wild. Very I think Leslie and I even compared it to there is Disney World, but then you go out and it's I forget Hollywood Boulevard or something like that, and it's just it is nothing but chain restaurants and
of course,
there's still a Ponderosa there, which I enjoy, but Leslie refuses to go.
So to any listeners and to yourself, anytime you're at a hotel and anywhere in the US, you should just be I should send
just
this
wonder.
to CC and be is this Mark just sent me a picture and was did you make this? I was no, unfortunately not.
I'm going to start doing that.
I might have, you never know.
But I'm going to do it from a Holiday Inn.
I've done Holiday Inn stuff. It's not just high end.
Those weird,
I've done a lot of Holiday Inns and La Quintas. I don't discriminate in
That's amazing.
The hierarchy of hotels.
Wow. So you may have, furnished the hotel room that Leslie and I conceived one of our kids in.
Probably.
That's amazing. You were there.
When you're taking a break and looking at the headboard and you're that's really awful artwork. I'm going to be It was awful, and I don't know why the person picked that. Even when I presented it, I was like, "I hope they don't pick this artwork."
And then they did.
And they
And
did anyway.
now
Yeah.
some like couple somewhere is having an affair underneath what you've done.
Some child was conceived under that awful artwork.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. So what did I say? A podcast to die for? It's
Yes.
a Lifetime movie. Just came out a couple weeks ago. It
Mhm.
is on, I think, demand still. They're still showing it on Lifetime. You can find it just about anywhere. Directed by Nicholas Humphreys, who I didn't quite recognize anything else on his IMDb, but I'm sure it's wonderful, and I don't mean that in an asshole way. Starring Kate Miner, who I didn't watch the show, or I did, and I think I forgot who she was, but she was in Shameless for like
Oh, okay.
33 episodes. I'll be honest, from the cover, when they showed it, I thought the main character was like a teenage girl, and Kate Miner was also a teenager, and I was like shocked when it starts and it's actually a pregnant like woman. Like,
Yeah, like older. I mean, not older, but like middle-aged woman. Yes. I will say that she I feel like having been pregnant myself, um she did not look like a normal pregnant woman.
she takes some liberties, which I'm very excited to get into, and I'm sure we've discussed it on the other episodes you've been on, but like, I feel like the other ones we've done have been very like true life crime,
Oh, yes,
and
yes.
this one I forget the one we did with Jamie, but probably off there.
I think that was the Jodi Arias one.
Oh, yes, there you go. So how much have you ventured into sort of like the like not true story, but like fictional Lifetime movies, or like outside of like the true crime type ones?
I would say this would be one of the first. I'm sure I've
Yeah.
watched a handful, but I most of the Lifetime movies I've watched are the ones that I catch around the holidays.
Yeah,
And
nice.
they're not really mystery driven or
Mm.
true crime. I was actually really surprised that there was like a fictionalization of a true crime one. Like, I
Uh,
mean, that wasn't like based on a true story.
I think they have a ton. Like,
Do
it
they?
just
Okay.
because I was poking around because we had kind of texted back and forth, and at first I was gonna like ask you or make you watch like a Hallmark one, but there wasn't really anything new.
Yeah.
And you said, something stabby. So this one popped up. There's this one, and then there was one with Joey King's sister that I keep trying to get everybody to watch, and nobody wants to. Um,
I didn't realize was that the other one that you sent me? I didn't
yeah.
realize that
And
that's
I also forget her
who
name.
you meant
So
to say.
obviously I'm not like that invested,
Right.
but this is, I think, one of the first I've watched too. Like, we've watched there's this whole series with Vivica A. Fox where they're not
Oh, okay.
connected or anything, but
Uh-huh.
it's like the wrong cheerleader or the wrong real estate agent or the wrong something. And like,
Hmm.
legit, I think there's like 900 of them on her IMDb page. And like, usually she's not even the main character. She just has like a part.
Mhm.
So Leslie and I have watched a few of those, but we have not ventured out much.
Okay.
So we'll get into it. But the whole thing kind of revolves around this couple that just got married, Lacey and Cam. And Cam has two kids from a previous marriage. And Lacey co-hosts a podcast, which I should have the names in front of me, with
Oh, the podcast is called A Voice for the
A
Silent.
Voice for the Silent, with Bianca, who is kind of her co-host. And
Mhm.
I didn't quite, it seems like Lacey kind of drives things, but
Yes.
Bianca is, along for the ride. And then there's also Valentine, who is like their assistant or receptionist, or I didn't quite understand, but
Yeah,
like,
kind of like I mean, obviously, like, it's only a three-person team, but it kinda seemed like Bianca was like a co-host producer, Lacey was the like, main host,
yeah,
and then Valentine was, like, kind of the assistant,
research assistant.
research
Yeah.
assistant, I don't know,
Or
just kind
just
of
like
an
obsessed
extra hand.
fan that they
Yeah,
hired.
right.
But it's interesting. So it kind of opens with them, the couple moving into this new house. The kids are like trying to pick out their room and stuff. But like, immediately we get a sign that like Lacey may not be the most appropriate mother when like they legit just start like going at it in the kitchen, like not hardcore, but like they're kissing or whatever. And like the kids are obviously like, oh, get a room. And like Lacey's like, better get used to it. Like,
Yeah, like
what does that mean? Like, oh, we're going to be fucking all the time
well,
and
but
you're going to
also better
watch.
get used to it. You're about to have a child. So like I mean, most of the time that slows down for just a little bit at least.
Right?
Like, what do you mean better get used to it? But
Because like, I don't, did they say how far along she was? Like, it was fairly far.
it
And
was
like,
fairly far because later on she's supposed to go on bed rest and the
yeah,
doctor tells her, yeah, it's going to be for a month until the baby gets here. So she's like, 30 weeks or,
she's pretty,
30
yeah.
something weeks.
But still like super horned up.
Oh
Like
yeah.
there's like
Super.
another scene where they're out at dinner and she's like, why don't we just go home? And it's just like, all right, Lacey, good for you. But I don't know, maybe she's younger too. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to judge. Uh, but around that time, we also get like this info dump of Cam. The kid's mother apparently had passed away.
Mhm.
We don't get much detail on that yet. And then Lacey, I don't think we find it out in this scene, but like eventually over time we get info that the reason she started this podcast is because her sister was murdered and she kind of wanted to bring to light and help other cases
Yeah.
that haven't been solved or that were similar. And I should say, normally I don't bother with spoilers or anything, but like since this is kind of like a who done it, like I'll flag and then put in the comments too the timestamp. So if you do want to watch it, you can jump ahead. But like that's kind of the setup. And then the other thing that's kind of in the background is the two kids, um, Kira and Maddie, also want to join the podcast, which is a true crime, like
Right.
murder, which seems weird. Like Kira, we don't really get ages, but Kira is probably early teens. Maddie, or maybe Maddie is like
Maddie, I would think Maddie's early teens, and it seems like Kira's probably like
16, 17,
16,
maybe.
17.
Yeah, which
Maybe a little, maybe they're like, no, that seems about right.
yeah, but it's
Yeah.
like, just the thought that Lacey pretty much says like it's up to your father. Like I'm
Sure.
all for it. I
Yeah.
want you to do this, but like your father needs to decide. It's like you're doing a podcast about murders, like, and
And like usually, like she's looking at like crime scene photos at some point. So it's like, it's not just unsolved murders. Like I
yeah,
mean, she has actual details of murders.
yeah. Well, exactly. So the whole setup is like they're trying to figure out like a case for their next podcast and they
Mhm.
want to do there was like two options I think and like I'm gonna need your help here because I got so lost with all these names but they I guess decide to do one about this woman
Yeah,
Melissa something I've got it in here somewhere
Marissa, I
yeah
think. Yes.
um and it's an unsolved crime and like Valentine is kind of giving them the info and she thinks potentially it's like a serial killer. It is Marissa, yep,
Yep.
because
Okay.
Valentine gives her the pictures of Marissa and it's like, oh, it looks a lot like Lacey. So like that's kind of the first tip off that like something weird is
Yeah, yeah,
going on
yeah.
here. But like to your point and it jumps ahead a little bit, but like at a certain point, like she's doing research at home and like Maddie finds the pictures that she just like left on the coffee table. Like again, Lacey's parenting skills, like
Leave something to be desired.
there's a weird like Lacey seems very invested in being these kids' stepmother and like
Yes.
really wants to be involved. But then also is just very relaxed about like, oh yeah, I guess I shouldn't leave like murder pictures on the coffee
Well,
table.
she is the younger stepmother, so maybe she's just trying to like
I guess.
be cool. I don't know.
But I mean, even like I think the older sister's like, "What the fuck are you doing? You shouldn't be leaving like stabbing
Right.
like photos."
Yeah.
Um, and then the other thing we get is like Cam does not seem super comfortable with this. Like he's opposed to the kids joining the podcast, which makes
Yes.
sense.
Adamantly at the
Um,
beginning.
but he also seems very uneasy with her even doing this podcast.
Yes. And not, and I mean, I'll give it to them that like he's written in a very way that a very it doesn't seem like demanding or like,
Yeah.
controlling. He's just like, we do have, younger kids who are female. You're doing murders that are female, that are based
Yeah.
on murdered women. And then you're also having another child who will also be female. So it's just a lot of death and kind of,
Yeah, at a certain
not
point,
great vibes towards this family right now.
like I'm sure you've gone through it too. Like even like when we were doing Bloody Good Horror, like once you have a kid, you have to start thinking about like, oh, the things I've said on there, and like,
Oh yeah. Well, and also like I can't remember, I was watching something recently. And it had never bothered me before, and watching it now I was just like, "Ooh, this
oh
hits
my god,
really
yeah,
different." And I never thought that like that would I would be that person, and I'm like, "Oh no, I'm definitely now that person." So I guess I can understand why Lacey still feels like a desire to do it,
yeah,
because like yes, her sister, I mean, I don't know if we mentioned that, but we find out that her sister was murdered. And I think that obviously she's doing it to feel closer to her, but
yeah.
it's still very I don't know, like, it doesn't seem very professional is what I'll
Yeah,
say.
100%.
Like, I don't know if you've watched the show Truth Be Told
I don't
with,
know.
oh my goodness, what is her name? It's on Apple TV, but, hold on. Truth Be Told. It's actually a really good series with, oh my gosh, what
That's
Octavia Spencer. Why can I
oh,
not?
all right.
So anyway, it's an amazing series, and it's based around her having a podcast, basically, a true crime podcast. So when you mentioned in this movie, I was like, well, I had just watched that series, and there's like 3 seasons, so it's really good. But I was like, I wonder how close it'll be. Like, I mean, they
The-
do a lot, like they talk a lot about like the research and
yeah,
I mean, obviously there's some fictionalization in that, like she's going around behind cops' backs and doing stuff, and it's like, how much is
it's
that really happening?
it's crazy because like I guess the closest you could compare it to is like a My Favorite Murder type
Right.
thing,
Or
right?
like even like Serial. Like how
Yeah,
much are they really like, sure, you might, I mean, even as like a journalist, you could go talk to somebody, but like, are you really out there like breaking into people's homes and looking for
yeah.
stuff?
And it's not like I don't know. I guess I didn't get the impression that like they do multiple episodes on like one single case.
Yeah.
Like I kept thinking of it as a My Favorite Murder, where it's like every episode is just a different case.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the entire movie focuses on like, and it takes place over days or weeks, even like
Uh-huh.
them researching it. And first of all, they have like an office, like a full on
Yeah.
office, like not like a single room type thing. Like it looks like it's in an office building.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, how like successful is this podcast that, they're doing this? Because then on like the flip side, Cam is like, all right, well, we have kids now. You have a kid on the way. Like,
Mhm.
I thought you'd move on to something else. And it's like,
So is this a hobby or is she making
yeah,
money?
like if it's that successful, Cam,
Yeah, like,
like,
she better keep doing it.
yeah, who's paying for this house?
Right.
Because, it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Um, but like, so they decide to do the Marissa case, and immediately she starts getting like, we get this scene where she's kind of looking up fan feedback and blah blah
Mhm.
blah, and like I did actually think it was not funny's not the right word, but like interesting that they did include like some of the stuff you would legitimately see out there. Like she gets one post that says like this is feminist
Yeah.
propaganda, and like
I know, I was like, "Okay,
I was
Lifetime, I
like,
see you."
wow, all right, like you did do your research on
Right.
like assholes.
Yeah.
But and then like so the one that does pop up, which is kind of like, the running theme, is, how does it feel to make a profit off of,
Mhm.
people's
Oh, for
murders and
sure.
stuff like that. Um, and it does seem like Cam kind of falls in that camp where he's just like not comfortable with this whole thing.
Mhm.
And during that time, she gets like a random message saying like, don't do the Marissa Hunter was the woman's
Mhm.
name. Don't do that case or you'll be sorry, or like, people will get hurt or something along those
Yeah.
lines. Um, so like that's kind of the first inclination that like something bad's going on here. And I think around that time too, this is when her and Cam go to dinner, right? Like,
Yeah.
and like a woman comes up and is like apparently a big fan and starts talking about it, and then like starts talking about like the murders, and Cam's like, what the fuck? Like, we're eating dinner.
Yeah.
So it isn't like, to your point though, it is interesting because, you know, Cam does make those comments about like moving on to something else, but
Mhm.
then you do also see his side, right? Like he's got 2 kids at home, like there's
Yeah.
one on the way, and like there's randos walking up talking about like stabbing. So
Right.
um the other weird thing that gets kind of thrown out this time, and it doesn't really come back, is they start this Marissa case, and I guess they have like pretty much a war room where they're just going to put up all the info and stuff.
Mhm.
And we get it tossed out that like, oh, Lacey, aren't you claustrophobic? And it's like,
Right?
so you assume like that's going to come back, but it never does, right? Did I miss that?
No, it never comes back.
So this is around the point where, like, in my notes, I'm like, how often is this podcast coming out? Like, where they're
It
putting like days of research into like a single episode. Like,
yeah.
what the hell are they doing here? Um, there's so much. Like, I took so many notes about like this stuff going on. So the other person we should talk about is Valentine,
Yes.
because Lacey is fairly pregnant. Valentine is there helping kind of gather
Mhm.
information and do research and stuff. And then during kind of the initial discussions of the Marissa case, we get Valentine saying like, well, you're going to keep doing the podcast after the baby, right? Like that's going to happen, right? Like, you know, so, and I think we even texted about this, right? That the whole thing is kind of based around who killed Marissa and like them
Mhm.
trying to like find info. And I think you immediately texted me saying like, "Oh, this person did it," right? And I'm like, I can't give this away, but at one point or another, I literally thought everybody in this movie was a murderer. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those annoying people who like obviously immediately
yep,
is like it's this person. And I mean, times than not I'm usually correct, which like doesn't for me doesn't really take away. Like I still like seeing how a story unfolds.
yep,
I mean, it annoys the shit out of Kyle, but so I just try not to tell him when I think I know who it is. But yes, I agree. Like, I think that I wouldn't say that I thought everybody was a suspect at one point, but I was definitely impressed with how I changed between
yep.
like 2 or 3 people that I was like, huh, okay. Like, they're doing a good job of like really pushing something without, I don't know, without like too heavy of a hand
Full
or
on
too,
giving it away. Yep.
yeah. And, you know, even the parts where, are we getting into spoilers?
Maybe let's hold a
Okay.
bit, but
Well,
I don't
so
know
when
what.
well, I mean, we don't have to. I mean, I can
Yeah.
talk about it, I feel like, without giving spoilers away. Even when we, so like you're saying, like you were talking about with Valentine, like there's, s- we have characters like yourself who are super intense and are
Yes.
very like, you know,
I would say, sorry, let me say the only thing I don't want to give it away is like who did it. But I do
yes,
think we could say like Valentine is definitely a suspect.
yes,
Cam is definitely a
yes.
suspect. There's a couple other people that I'm
There's
forgetting,
some
but like,
boyfriends, yeah, of the
yes,
like
yeah,
character of the actual women who were or murdered, and it I I was impressed that like everybody was written in a very like multi-dimensional way. Like we get several like messages from Valentine, like you said, that are super bizarre.
yeah,
Like she's very weirdly like, I mean,
obsessed. Yeah.
obsessed.
Well,
Like I
even
get,
we get this one point where they go to like a podcast convention or
yeah,
something,
that's what I was
and
gonna say.
oh yeah, 100%. We should definitely like talk about this. And there's this woman, Tandra, who comes up, and she worked with Valentine on another
Uh-huh.
podcast. And it's weird because they seem to know this woman, but she's like, oh yeah, Lacey lies about her references and stuff. Like, you should definitely watch out for her.
Yeah.
The host of the podcast she used to work on disappeared also. And it's just like, oh, what?
Well, and like, okay, first of all, I will say, so okay, what town are they in? Like,
It's
it made
yeah.
it sound like they're in a really small town, which is fine, obviously. I mean, they're trying to trying to solve a small town murder, but then this small town also has a podcast convention.
Literally just in like every other house has a true
But
crime podcast, apparently.
right? But then also there's only like 3 people at this convention,
Yeah.
and the convention is also like in the building where they record.
Well, and then like this woman made a comment that like Valentine tried to end this woman's
Yes. Yeah,
pregnancy, and it's like HR wanted to sweep it under the rug. I'm like, what fucking podcast has an HR department?
Well, I mean, I have one of my friends works for oh god, what is his
I mean, I guess
company?
one of the like podcast networks would,
like
yeah, but
like a podcast network. But it's really bizarre because I feel like they did just enough. The writers of this movie did just enough research to like know about these things, but then when they put it all together, they didn't say like, okay, we're a top tier
we're the
podcast,
big one,
or
yeah.
like, or we're a low tier. Like, it's just really weird, and it kind of
they just toe out podcast, right?
Yeah, they just
like,
say podcast, and I'm like, well, okay. I mean, this is a podcast right here. Like, I'm in my basement room, and you're.
I'm making nothing, like
Right?
absolutely nothing. I'm losing.
You could actively be making money right now doing something else, and you're choosing not to.
I'm still trying to like use the BGH credit card, and like it keeps getting declined. Like,
I'm like so mad my shutter got turned off.
oh my god! Like, I had to finally, my laptop shit the bed, and I had to buy my own. And I'm like, this sucks. Like,
Yeah.
maybe
Wait,
they'll
you got
take
a
me back.
laptop from it?
Stacey, you know.
You were there from the beginning.
I was there for like 10 plus years.
That's true. So I will say that kind of like threw me for a loop.
Yeah.
And then, there's a couple of times where like there's some, like you said, when Lacey's looking at her website and feedback and trying to decide like which direction the podcast is going to go in, and then like Valentine is like oddly excitable about like, well, this murder happened 3 years ago, and I think another one's gonna happen. And Lacey's like, what? But it's like,
look,
not.
Why would you think that?
Yeah, but like very giddy about it, and you're like, okay, I understand you work for a podcast. I mean, like a true crime podcast, but like you don't have to be excited about someone dying. Like,
and it was also a very weird leap. It's like, oh, this person happened 3 years ago,
Yeah.
and then this one happened, so I think another one's gonna like. There was no info as like, why would those be connected? Like,
but then so that was like before the podcast convention, which was like a couple of days. Then the podcast convention happens in their building. Lacey goes to storage for some reason to get boxes, which I have never seen a more pregnant woman act less pregnant than I've in my entire life.
Like the next scene or so, like we'll definitely get into.
So she goes. So she tells Bianca, her co-host, like, okay, I'm going to go get these boxes. And Bianca's like, no, you're pregnant. Let me help you. And she's like, no, I'm going to go get them. She is constantly alone.
Yeah, I just need to change this flat on my car first.
Always alone. Which, I mean, I'm not saying you can't do stuff by yourself as a pregnant person. I like doing stuff by myself, for myself. But like, I mean, you realize, especially as you get further along, like, yes, you have to be really conscious of this. And she's like,
you're not even mobile. Like at a certain point, like she's like prancing upstairs and stuff. It's like, what the fuck?
Which I just saw the Barbie movie, and so she just made me think of Midge, because it looked like a step above having a pillow in her stomach.
Oh my God.
Whatever was attached to her stomach, I was like, girlfriend, they needed to have.
Was it good? The Barbie movie was good. Like,
it was so good.
I've heard nothing but good. I want to see it
fun.
really bad, and I think
you and Leslie both will love it. Like it's just, I left like, I mean, because like I grew up liking Barbie and playing with Barbie, but I wasn't like super into Barbie, and I was like, okay, this is. I can get behind this. It was really good, and I mean, Greta Gerwig is such a good writer.
Yeah.
So like. It's fun. It's like it's very emotive at times, and it was just like, I recommend it. We wanted to do a double feature, but I'm like, who has time to sit for 2 hours for Barbie and then go to Oppenheimer?
3. I honestly, Leslie's out of town, and I've contemplated going to see Oppenheimer like every day, and I'm like, I just don't even know if I could sit for 3 hours for like one movie. Like,
So, yeah. But point being, there's,
Yes.
the Barbie character Midge who has a detachable belly, and that's what this Lacey looks like. And I'm just like, you obviously have not been pregnant in real life because you are not acting pregnant. And I've never seen someone who, like, she blatantly says at one point, this person is after me. And
Yeah.
she constantly does shit that
She
is
just doesn't
like,
care.
she
Well,
doesn't care. And then she tells everyone, if I'm not back in 30 minutes, call the cops. A lot can happen
or
in 30
come with
minutes.
me, like, because I think by this point she's met her doctor once and they flag like, hey, your blood
Oh,
pressure is
yes,
pretty high,
yes.
you got to start watching this, but like
Which
doesn't care.
also, I don't know a doctor that would be like, let me just give you this medication for
Yeah,
it. Like, I am pretty sure that's not how that works. When I had preeclampsia, they were like, you have got to quit work and you have got to quit school. Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
either you quit these things or you're going to be in the hospital. So for her to be like, it's fine, I'm going to go chase this murderer.
Anywho, like, because like at one point, I think it's around this time
Hmm.
they are looking through like boxes and stuff at the thing, and then like the power gets cut at their office, and Bianca's kind of looking through,
Mhm.
notices that like it's weird because they're both like, oh, what's that smell? And then Bianca finds like a cut gas line. But then Lacey is using a Zippo to like, and not that like, all right, there's a weird smell. Like, all right, maybe you don't automatically assume it's gas, but like gas has a pretty distinct
It has
smell
a
to
pretty
it.
distinct smell. Even if you don't know what gas smells like, I feel like most people would be able to be like, "We should probably get out of here."
Well, also in 2023, who the fuck is still using a Zippo rather than their phone as like a flashlight? Like, uh,
I don't know.
that scene was so intense because Bianca comes like running and like slaps her hand. And I'm like, first of all, you already flicked it. So like,
Yeah,
that's
like
it. Like, you're done. But like, the whole thing was just amazing. So, and I think this is around the time
which
too, where like,
also,
yeah,
hold up. I know it'll be hard to talk about this. Oh, I guess it does make sense. Okay, never mind. We can talk about it off. I
well,
was
yeah.
like,
Towards the end, I definitely want to talk about like what was really wrapped up and what wasn't. When we get
okay,
into like actual spoiler, which I think
okay.
we're getting close to. So this is around the time where like Maddie finds the pictures too, and like she is like visibly upset.
Yes.
And then I literally have it in my notes. Oh boy, Cam's home, because like Cam comes home and finds like Maddie upset.
Yeah.
And the other daughter, Kira, is like consoling her, and
Mhm.
Lacey just like, she's fine, she's fine. She just found some stuff. Like, it won't happen again. Everything's cool. And I'm just like, again, Lacey, like, what the fuck, man? Like,
Yeah.
can you just like maybe try and be a mom here?
Right.
So, and then, sorry, this is where we also get the scene where like Lacey meets with her doctor again, and he's like,
Mhm.
this is getting worse. Your blood pressure's really high. You need to like pretty much be on bed rest. And Cam is in the office with, and she's like,
Mhm.
why the fuck didn't you tell me about this? Like, again, like total disregard for the baby.
Yeah.
And then the next scene, which I think is where we started texting, she's like in the kitchen doing dishes,
Yeah.
and she's like, I just need to stay busy. And after this, I'm going down to the office. And Cam's like, what the fuck? Like,
And, like, is it, I mean, they don't ever say what he is, but, like,
I
it
have
makes
no
it sound
idea.
like he's, like, a doctor or a firefighter, like, something that he's,
Yeah.
like, working, like, I don't know. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I
And this is around, I think Cam and Lacey have like a big fight, and she kind of agrees to like, what the hell are you doing? Quit the podcast, or at least
Uh-huh.
pause it for a while.
Mhm.
And the saddest thing I think I've ever heard on film is Kira, the older sister, saying, sorry, my dad made you quit your podcast. To like a grown adult. like,
Yeah.
good God.
I mean, yeah.
um, so this is, maybe we can like get into spoilers now, because I think we need to kind of start talking about where stuff starts come to light. So
Yeah.
I would say skip ahead. I'll put in the comments or the notes of the episode like where we kind of wrap up, but I think this would be your spoiler warning, because all right, they have this big fight. She agrees to quit the podcast, does not, because like Valentine texts her and says like, we need to meet, I have
Yeah.
information, blah blah blah.
Which, okay, she's sitting there with Maddie when
Yeah,
Valentine texts her and she goes, "If I'm not back in 30 minutes, call the cops."
right?
You are with your daughter, your stepdaughter, but your daughter, and you're pregnant. What do you mean, call the cops
Again,
in
yeah.
30 minutes? Are you crazy? I mean, you
Um,
are crazy, but like,
so by this point, like all signs are pointing to Valentine, right? Because like
yes,
she's
yes.
super obsessed. We find out she lied. We find out that, there was this issue with the previous podcast she was
Mhm.
on, then the host disappeared. So, which by the way, since we're in spoilers, I don't think we ever find out what happened to the old podcast host, right?
No.
Like just gone. Um, so like that's a loose end.
Yeah.
Um, Lacey goes to meet this person that she now suspects is a murderer and is pregnant. And then we find Valentine's dead. And
Like, in a weirdly, like,
she's all
fetal
like curled
position,
up. I
yeah,
did,
position
to
with
your
all
point,
this, like,
I thought it may have been a trick, like at that point.
right,
And then there's a sign like next to it that says like I'm sorry,
right.
which now that I think about it, I don't know what that meant or what she was sorry about.
No, well, because, I mean, didn't somebody kill her?
Yes,
Okay,
but
so I
why were
think
they sorry?
I think they were writing the note as Valentine to, like, try and frame her to be like, "I'm sorry
Uh,
for doing it. This is my suicide note."
oh, all right, that makes sense. Yeah.
Why are you sorry?
Um, because then like that doesn't make sense because the cop is like, do you think Valentine could have killed Marissa?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I don't know, maybe. So, I guess that does make sense, but I was very confused. Um, so then I don't really think we talked about it. There's this old woman that is
Mhm.
living next to Marissa or something, and Lacey, I forget how she got Marissa's address, but like she
Yeah.
had been going to Marissa's house to like do research. And the old woman talks about how like, oh, sometimes I still think I see the killer, and
Mhm.
I thought it was Aaron, and we don't really know who Aaron is. Um, and then around this time, Lacey's going through Marissa's house and finds pictures of Cam. And it turns out Cam is actually Aaron, and
Mhm.
Cam had been dating Marissa, and like the kids knew her, and like this is where everything gets
So, like,
blown wide open.
everybody has been lying because,
Yes.
like, this whole time, like, Lacey has been talking about how Marissa was murdered, how, Maddie found pictures of Marissa murdered and, like, all this stuff, and Cam had said that his ex had an accident,
Yeah.
or no,
A
had
car
died of
was
cancer, and
Yes,
then
that's
he
right.
was like, "Well, no." Anyway, Lacey confronts him, and he's like, "Yeah, we were under so much scrutiny," and which is weird because, again, you're in a small town.
Yeah.
How do you just change your name
Exactly.
and
Like,
everybody forget that, like, your ex-girlfriend died or your ex-wife or what your ex-partner, whoever?
and also
So,
you're a host of a true crime podcast, and there was a murder within driving distance,
it was
and
a
like you
yeah,
didn't know anything about this or
yeah,
like see Cam's picture in the news or anything. Like,
yeah. But then we also find out that Lacey, or that Valentine leaves Lacey, a box at
yes.
Bianca's house, which is like, why? But I guess because we find out that we're doing spoilers, like real
Yes, yeah,
spoilers.
we're in
Right?
it now.
So we find out that, like, Cam had actually dated Marissa and the other girl as
Yep.
well who had died, and they were both pregnant. So so then Lacey's like, he's killing his children,
Well,
not
that's
that he's killing these women.
on the back of the picture. I even wrote it down. Because I think it was Sarah was the first victim. Like
Yes.
on the back of the picture, it says they were all pregnant. He's killing his children.
It's just like, okay, that's a weird thing to write, but
By
okay.
this point, too, I had no idea whose fucking house she was ever in because there's just
Yes.
like every other scene, she's in like a dark room opening boxes and just like,
Yeah.
I don't know if she's in Marissa's house, her attic, somebody
Oh,
else's.
well, we
Like,
didn't also, to backtrack, I know
yeah.
I feel bad that we're backtracking, but at one
Oh,
point when we think that it's Valentine, um, it I've also been watching, sorry, like 90 Day Fiance, and there's a guy named
oh,
Valentine. And so now, but he's like, I don't know, it's just so funny because every time I say Valentine, I see his face, and I'm
it's
just like,
such a weird name. Like,
why
not
would he
weird, but
be,
like
yeah, like, why would he be in
distinct.
this story. But
Yep.
anyway, um, Valentine had like they say that she had apparently been in Lacey's attic and had like messed up the railing. And so
Oh yes, when
pregnant
she
Lacey
falls.
is carrying a box and falls down the steps. If you fell down the steps at 30 weeks
Yeah.
enough to hurt your wrist, you would be on bed rest.
It was a hardcore tumble, which I think is that not was I think that the fall is what sends her to the doctor, where the
Yes,
doctor
yes,
says you
sorry.
do need to be on bed rest. So I guess technically she should have been. She's just like,
Yes.
fuck it, I don't
Yeah.
care.
But like, I mean, I'm surprised they let her leave, which I know it's a movie, but you
Yeah.
know. So
Well,
anyway, fast forward, we're I don't know where we are. We're at Valentine's house or we're at
so I think
Lacey.
it's where Lacey discovers that Cam was actually dating
Yes.
Marissa also, and she goes home and confronts Cam, kicks him out
Yes.
of the house.
Yes.
But then the kids stay. Like
Yes.
this is what, and we texted a lot about it. Like I was so confused about the kids in general. Like if where you get remarried or whatever, and like the kids are there, if the father, like the biological father, gets kicked out of the house, you would think he would take his biological kids, right?
Yes. I would imagine. I mean, I appreciate that she's such a caring stepmother, but as a child, I think I would still want to go with my dad, like,
Yeah.
in that situation. So, yes, he leaves. She's with the stepdaughters,
Yeah.
and then I don't remember how we get
I'm not going to be of
to
any help here.
I don't remember how we get back over to
She finds a box marked Lacey that had Aaron's. Oh, so
yeah,
yeah, that's the Valentine left her.
yeah.
That's where
But
she
how does
finds
she
it.
get
Yeah.
back over to Marissa's house where she gets attacked?
I don't know. She
Don't know.
I remember she finds, I think it's Marissa's locket in one of the
Oh,
vents.
yeah, well, but that she's at Marissa's house. So anyway, somehow she gets to Marissa's house and she's looking around because I guess she realizes like somebody's hanging out in the house and she wants to go look. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
weird. So she goes alone again and then she's looking. And so you were texting me like why are so there's a lot throughout the whole movie there's a lot of shots on necklaces
Lockets. Yeah.
and bracelets and obviously they're referencing the fact that like killers take trophies and that they're like trying to frame people and so we find out that like we find the locket Marissa's locket in the vent and it's in a little like jewelry
Yeah.
box but then she also finds
Her locket, right? Yeah.
her bracelet that her sister had, and this whole time throughout the whole movie, she loses it, like, in the first 15 minutes,
Oh, we
and
didn't even sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but we didn't even mention that the sister, there's also suspicion that the person that went to jail for the sister's murder
is
is
not the
not the actual murderer.
right.
Sorry. Yeah,
So
sorry, go on.
yeah, so that's kind of why she, like, has this weird, like, "Okay, I have to make sure that the person for the person for Marissa goes to jail," and um, she finds her own locket in the vent jewelry box. And while she's looking at it, she gets hit upside the head.
Yes.
And when she wakes up, basically everybody's there.
Yeah. So I think at that point too, right? She's in the house and then Cam shows up and then Bianca is
Oh, yes. Yes.
confronting Cam.
Yes. Cam and Bianca are fighting. So then you're like, well, is it Bianca? Is it
Yeah.
Cam? Like, what's happening here?
At this point, I was like, all right, it's Cam. Like that's what
Yeah.
we kind of assumed. And Bianca's confronting him. But then Lacey gets hit on the back of the head and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, what the fuck's going on here? And then she comes to, and this is where we kind of get like, this is the real spoiler. Like, it's Kira. Kira is the one who knocked her out. But then, and hopefully you can help me here because Lacey's like, what the fuck happened? You murderer, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, my first wife died in a car accident, but Kira, I was so confused. Like, what it turns out is that Kira is the murderer and
Yes.
she is killing these women because they get pregnant.
Yes.
And she doesn't want them to have kids to take away from like their relationship with their dad. But then Cam is also aware that this is happening, right?
Yes. Yes. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm assuming from what I could tell was that like yeah, the original mom died somehow.
Yeah.
I don't think Kira had anything to do with it,
Yeah.
but obviously she had a lot of trauma from it happening and is now like very possessive of her dad. And yes, he started dating these two women who both got pregnant. I mean, he wasn't dating them at the same time, but
Yeah.
dated two women. They both got pregnant. He didn't know about it, but Kira saw the like tests and then killed them because she was afraid that they would like
The
they
new
and their
kid would
kid
take
would like
away
take
their attention.
away
Yeah.
from them, which like is okay, fine. I mean, she's a teenager, but yeah, like Cam knew about
That's
the first time happening and
teenagers
now
do that sort of thing.
I mean, no, but like, okay, you're a teenager. I get like you're
Crazy
crazy.
kids.
Yeah. But you're telling me that like you're on to your third baby mama and you're like, it's okay. We've made it this far.
That's what I was confused about, like
Like,
how much Cam knew. Because at a certain point, I'm like, can you just get a vasectomy? Like,
yeah.
stop having fucking
But
kids. Like,
but that's the thing. It made it sound like he didn't know that they were pregnant.
I think as we're discussing it, he knew that Kira murdered them, but didn't know it was because they were pregnant.
Okay.
Maybe, but like even that, it's like you just find out your daughter's a murderer, and you don't like maybe pry. Like, why are you
Right?
doing this? Because Cam also says like I was gonna cover for you and take the fall,
Yeah.
but like I don't know. Like I was so confused piecing this together.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's obviously, and that's what I was going to ask earlier. There's obviously like going back. First of all, I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, because I was pretty sure it was Cam, even though
Yeah.
I went back from Valentine, and when it was Kira, I was like, okay, like I like that twist. That was good. I didn't really see that coming. And then I start thinking, I'm like, well, how did she do all of those
Yeah.
things? Like the gas line, but the girls were at the podcast. She had picked them up from school and taken
Hmm.
them to the podcast thing, so that makes sense. But so it's not that I felt like there were any loose ends as much as it was like
It was hard to follow
it
for
was
like,
hard to follow.
yeah, like I said, like I'm still not positive what Cam did and didn't know,
Yeah.
and like what was going on
And
there.
also
Like,
like I don't know, maybe get your daughter in therapy or like
right? You would think by the third girlfriend
by
slash
the
wife,
first
like at least try and like get to the bottom of what's
listen, if
happening here.
you had to change your name and do all of this stuff, I would be like, we need to get you in. Like, okay, fine, you're not gonna rat on your kid or like try and get your kids some help, but like,
Stop dating.
stop
Stop fucking
dating.
dating.
I mean, I'm sorry, but you have bigger concerns than like being intimate with somebody
Yeah,
or being
like
lonely.
do you think like after their first date or something, or like when like they started to get serious, Cam's like, "This is Lacey, Kira. I really like this one. Come on,
Well, even
please."
Kira said that. She was like, I really liked you at first. Why'd you have to get pregnant? Like,
Mm,
what?
who
Like,
hasn't said that to a woman? You
right.
know.
I was like, okay.
so, so then there's like a struggle. There's a
Yeah.
fight. Blah blah blah. They end up getting arrested. I even when so we kind of cut to everybody. Kira gets arrested, going to jail. Blah blah blah. We cut to kind of the final scene, and I was not super clear if like Cam also went to jail. But then
Yeah.
what's her name? The younger one, Maddie, comes out, which first of all, again, like I mean, I guess good kudos to Lacey for dealing with Maddie and keeping her. And then the baby is there now also. But like Maddie comes out, she's like, "Do we have to go see them?" And like that's where we get like, "Oh, Cam's in jail too because he
Mhm.
was covering." And it's like, "What?"
Yeah. Well, and Maddie says so first of all, we hear she's like Lacey's talking to the baby, and then you hear the door open, and Maddie's like, I did really great on my AP test. And you're like, so she's living there. And
Yeah.
then she's like, yeah, let's celebrate with pizza. And then she's like, okay, well, we're going to go see them. And Maddie's like, do we have to? And she's like, they're still your
Still
family.
family.
Bitch, she tried to kill you and your baby. What do you mean she's still
Multiple
family?
times. And they have
I would
murdered
understand
other
it.
people.
Yeah, like I would understand it if Maddie was like, well, okay, I'm gonna go see her, like reluctantly.
Yeah.
But like Lacey's like, no, she's still your family. And then she says one day they'll get out and they need our support.
Yeah. It's like,
I'm
what?
sorry, what?
No.
What?
Do you think Kira's going to be any better about this after she gets out of prison?
Jeez.
And that fucking baby's going to be there.
Right? It's like, oh Lord. So yes,
And then
I was
wasn't there like a comment like, oh, I don't think Kira's ever getting out of jail. Like,
oh yes. Well, Maddie says that though. Maddie's
yeah.
like, I don't think she's ever getting out. Like,
yeah. Well, Maddie is like the most reasonable one here. Is like,
yes.
she fucking killed 2 people and attempted to kill.
Yeah.
Or no, because she killed Valentine also,
Yeah,
right?
so 3 people.
Who knows how many people Kira's killed at this point? But like, yeah. So I think that's kind of it, right?
Yeah. Yes, I think so.
Other than the one thing they do try and wrap up is Lacey gets like a random call and it's like a detective saying like, just so you know, your sister's murderer, like we did DNA tests and he really is the murderer. So we've got that guy. Don't worry about that one. Like,
yeah. It's
okay.
like, oh cool. Thanks for wrapping up that doubt.
We're good there. Like, we still don't know what happened to Lacey's old boss and like a handful of other things, but whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we can kind of cut this as like the spoiler territory.
Okay.
I'm taking a mental note and I'm going to forget it. But so, all right. The 2 questions: a podcast to die for. Would you recommend it? Yes or no?
Sure.
Yeah, I would say, and I know we kind of spent the whole time goofing and talking about all the plot holes and confusion, but like I was, to your point, I think you mentioned at the top, like I was pleasantly surprised at like how it did keep me guessing. And even like, at a certain point, I did think potentially the person who ends up doing it was that, but like I didn't see the actual twist coming.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I would say if you're in for like a guessing game for the whole movie, like I think they did a really good job of like not giving it away.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and there's not like we said plot hole. I mean everything has plot holes, but there's not really any like glaring plot holes or like, I mean the quality is pretty a pretty high quality Lifetime movie. So I was like pleasantly I enjoyed myself watching it, laughing about it and having a good time. So yeah. I would say it's worth it.
Now the tougher question, your happily ever after. Who in this cast do you like go with? Like I'm looking at everyone right now and like I still don't know, like because Lacey I guess is the only one who isn't a murderer, but like she's not great.
Well, I was about to say, I mean, I guess I'm gonna say Cam because if his daughter's in prison, maybe I'm safe. But also, I kind of feel like I can't do anything that he wouldn't forgive me for.
That's true. Yeah, that is valid, right? He's loyal to a fault.
Or he would, be down to help me do whatever. So, if I'm in this,
that's valid.
In this scenario, like let's lean into it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't like Bianca. Maybe is a choice, but like we don't really know much about her. I would maybe go Valentine just because,
you like him crazy.
The super crazy is kind of hot. So, she, so I guess let's go with her. Okay. All right. So that is a podcast to die for. 2 thumbs up, but you know what you're getting into. All right. So where do we go now? So we are on, it's just me. Instagram, Twitter, and Threads. And we got some questions from all 3 of those actually. So first one, this one I don't know how to answer, but hopefully you'll. What's better, woven friendship bracelets or heart-shaped friendship lockets? Was there is that a reference to this movie, or was there woven friendship bracelets, or is that just a weird coincidence that?
No, well, I mean, normally, like, growing up, girls do, like you make friendship bracelets
Yeah.
for each other, or you have the like matching lockets, or like, two parts of a heart.
Mm,
You know, growing up, I definitely would say friendship
yeah,
bracelets.
yeah. Heart-shaped locket seems like that's a commitment.
Yeah. Well,
That's
the woven bracelet's only a commitment till it falls off.
well, exactly. Like if you lose that, it's like, oh, it's like $1
Yeah.
at the store.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I mean, really, those lockets, the fun ones are like only $10 at Claire's. So are
that's
they really a
still
commitment?
that's still a lot.
It's
Like,
still a lot.
and also like
But
it's only two halves, and it's just like, all right, if you see the other, if you're walking around the school, like, oh, that person has the other half, like that's it. Like that's you can give friendship bracelets to anyone, and
that's
like
true.
you can have a
And
whole group,
I also yes, agreed. And I also feel like, they try there's several I've seen several necklaces where like the heart is divided into 3 for the 3 best friends.
Ugh.
Like, how do you really divide it into like multiple best friends?
And then one
And
like eventually is gonna fall out,
yeah,
like, and
well,
then what do
yeah,
you
I
do?
mean, it seemed like anytime you did that, one always like it was like getting a tattoo of someone's name.
I was about to say the same. Like, it's like the high school or middle school version of that.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I don't like friendship bracelets, like it's friendship. Like, that's
Yeah,
not a huge commitment. Like,
that's true.
best friends forever. Like, that's best
Are we? Are
friends.
we?
That's forever. Like,
It's a lot. You're
when do I go back?
yeah.
And then the other one, how closely does this movie mirror your own experience as a podcaster?
Mm.
And why is it 100% accurate? Um, So yeah, I mean, I think we kind of talked about it, right? Like what I found so funny is like the fact that they had like an office building, they had like
Yeah.
assistants, like, and again, like I'm sure the bigger ones do have that,
Mhm.
but like it's nowhere near. Like I remember, I think I was excited, like you said, like we had like a Shutter account that got
Yeah.
covered. I'm like, all right, that's cool. Um,
Yeah, I don't think even at, Horror Hound, our lunches or dinners were never interrupted by
no,
rabid fans.
no. I have. Did you ever? Actually, that's funny. Have you ever been like recognized out in public from the podcast?
No. I don't think so.
No, I did
Not
have
unless, like, not unless I was, like,
like
with a
with
group of
yeah.
y'all. Yeah,
I
never
want to
never
say
have.
I had 2, maybe 3. I was at a concert actually, the Bronx. I was at a Bronx
Ah,
show,
mhm.
and some guy out of nowhere like walked up like, "Hey, are you Joe from Bloody Good Horror?" And I was like, "Oh wow, like yeah, like it
Yeah,
was really nice." Oh, actually, and I went to a Joe Bob Briggs event too, and
okay.
someone there recognized me. And then the most, what is wrong with you? The most like amazing slash awkward one was I was in California at the Madonna Inn.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever heard it? It's this like insane, like kitschy, like look it up. It's
Okay.
I think it's like 50 rooms and each room has a different theme, which
Mhm.
sounds a lot skeevier than it is. But like they also have like this amazing steakhouse, and the bar is like something out of like the 1960s. Like
Awesome.
you
Okay.
could literally ask for like any drink. Like I was there with his coworkers from the UK, and he was on like this big like tiki Americana
Mm.
drink, and he'd be like, "Pink squirrel," and the
Yeah.
guy's like, "Yeah, absolutely. Here, I'll make it."
Awesome, that's cool.
And like people go there at night and like do like old school dancing, and like it's a
Mhm.
whole scene. It's amazing. Like I definitely recommend it. But so I was there for drinks at the bar with a bunch of coworkers because I was out west for work, and this couple walk up to me like in the middle of coworkers like, "Joe from Bloody Good Horror," and I'm like, "Yes," which was amazingly nice. But then I also had to explain like
Yeah.
what the hell that
This
was.
this is what I do in my free time.
Like to this day, like some of them are still like, "Oh, Joe, podcast famous Joe." Um,
I mean, so that's 100% accurate. That's exactly what happened in this movie.
yeah, right. Except
Mhm.
like they also were apparently like able to afford a house from their podcast. Um, so that's it for questions. Smalltownfailingpodcast.com or smalltownfailing. And then I always forget the other one that I bought, but it's like Whack Bitch Society or something like ridiculous. I'm gonna look it up while we're talking. But you can go there and find links to the YouTube episodes, which if you're just listening to this, go to YouTube because you can watch the actual episodes, which is a ton of fun. You can
Wait,
also
you
get
didn't
a
tell me this is on YouTube.
oh yeah, 100%. Wait, did I not? Are you joking or?
I mean, I knew. Oh, obviously, I know it's a video, but I
Yeah.
didn't know that's
Oh,
where
as opposed to
it's going.
like you just thought this was for my own like personal collection. Like I watched this later.
No,
That's weirder, right? Like that's oh whackbitches.org. I paid for.
no. I thought like I don't know. You would host it on your website or something.
You
I mean, it makes sense to go on YouTube. I'm just joking, but like,
it it does not make sense that I would be paying for like hosting fees and stuff for
you
like.
bought whackbitches.com.
So we were actually speaking of Atlanta, we were watching Atlanta Housewives, and someone made a comment that like, oh, you can find her info on like whackbitches.com. And I think I was like, hi, and I'm like, is that a real thing? I want that. So I went and it was available, but I think it was like $3,000 or something. But whackbitches.org was like three. And I'm like, I
So
loved,
now,
yeah, I loved
so
the
now you're
idea
just
that there's like,
hoping.
I love the idea that there's just like an organization, like they're unified, like they have meetings, like,
I
you know,
like that. I hope that one day someone emails you and is like, "I need to buy this.
yeah, like
I need to buy this through my organization."
take down your shitty podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, whackbitches.org, YouTube, you can find the links there. Cameo, if you're looking for a gift. I got this amazing one last week from this person like organizing like an event in their town in Wisconsin. If I can pull it up in time while I'm doing, I'll actually say like the whole thing. But like they literally sent me a thing like asking me to like promote their
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's like a Price is Right type thing that they're doing.
Mhm.
And it was like super nice. So by all means, please like go in and do that. Oh, it's in Amory, Wisconsin. I should say, I'll give them a plug. They're having this big event on August 12th. And it's like a Price is Right to like win a bunch of stuff and like help
Mhm.
support the town. So that was super nice of them to do that.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and then smalltownfailingpodcast at gmail.com if you want to send in like a long for email, which I love anytime anyone does, although only one person does, and it was Justin, and I appreciate him for that. And what else? I think that is it. I need to thank Elisa, who was on the last episode. Thank you so much for coming on. And then, sorry, rambling. Cece, where can everyone find your art wares and everything going on
Um,
besides Dollywood?
yes, most of that stuff is, I mean, I is Twitter even still a thing? I mean, I'm on Twitter. I
It's
haven't been on it.
X. It's X
Okay,
now.
it's X now, so I am not on that anymore, I guess. I mean, my name is there, but I'm not. Um, so you can find me on Instagram at cc.stapleton. Yeah, I mostly post my artwork there. I have a website, ccstapleton.com. Yeah,
Do you want to give
just
out your home address or like
yeah, it's
just swing by? Like,
just swing by if you're gonna only if you're going to come and ask me to make artwork so I can make some money. Otherwise, don't bother.
or better
Uh,
yet, give out your phone number so people, when they're in hotels, they can text
yeah,
you.
that's right.
Is this
You
you?
can you can just DM me. Is this you when
Oh
you're
my god,
in
I
the
would love for this to be like an Instagram or something thing where like people are just posting pictures of
I
artwork
mean, that
with
would
like
make
the
me really
hashtag
happy.
like is
Is
this
this you?
Cece? Like that would be amazing. I'm
I
gonna start
mean,
doing that.
you
And
need to. There because I've got a lot of stuff. I've got a lot of stuff in Chicago. I've got a lot of stuff in Boston, in New York. I just did some stuff for Kansas City. But I mean, I've got literally I I would say the majority of the states I've got stuff in.
wow, this is it. We should do like a whole
Yeah.
thing where like people just go around. Nice, awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Cece, thank you so much. This is
Yes.
always a blast, but like this one in
Always a
particular
blast.
felt like it was
It was
more
very
fun than the
fun.
other ones. So,
Yes. We'll have
uh,
to save the good true crimey ones for me, please.
well, there's, and I think we talked about it when Jamie was on too. There is supposed to be like a Jodi Arias sequel,
Oh my
which
god. What?
may have come out already and just isn't anywhere available. But like, yeah, absolutely, we need to do that again.
Well, but I will say I did enjoy this fictionalization because the only thing about the true crime ones, like the real true crime ones, is that like it's kind of hard to talk about them being ridiculous when you're like somebody actually
yes.
died.
Yeah, I remember we had that conversation, I think, on the first one we did, which is
Yeah.
like the suitcase killer or something.
Oh, I can't
Or was that?
remember.
I don't know. But like
Yeah.
it is. It's like, oh, we're goofing on the acting, but it's like, oh, someone really got
Yeah.
murdered.
So I
Uh,
feel better when I'm like, this woman is not a pregnant woman and she's being wild running through the streets
yeah.
trying to find a murderer.
I was
So
just shocked that she wasn't a teenager from what I saw on the cover. But
yeah,
anyway,
you know,
awesome. Well, thank you so much.
yeah,
I do appreciate it. I don't know what we're doing next time, but we'll figure it out and there'll be
figure it
a
out.
thing. So, yes, thank you everybody for listening. And
Yes, thank you for having me.
we'll talk to you next time. All right. Bye.
See ya.
Uh.